The argument is made by immigration restrictionists that verses in the Bible about borders declare God's blessing for us to stop anyone we want from coming across those borders. So here's a couple of verses about borders. Genesis 10, verse 19. And the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon, as thou comest to Gerar unto Gaza, as thou goest unto Sodom and Gomorrah and Admah and Zeboim, even unto Lasha. Here's one from Genesis 49:13. Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon. Now, evangelist Brandon House argues that several Bible verses confirm the existence of borders between nations recognized by God. But is this fact relevant to the question before us of who God wants us to allow to cross them? House argues that if we let everyone across, we in effect have no border. But does anyone want to allow everyone across, even criminals, terrorists, drug lords, and invading armies? And even if we let everyone across, isn't the other purpose of a national border to define for every acre of land whose nation's laws have jurisdiction over it? Isn't it also to draw a line respected, at least for a while, by the armies of the nations on either side of it, so that there is not continual warfare over every square foot of land? Are indeed the unreasonable, ruthless aggressions of pagans God's pattern for us? Chapter 2 of James Hoffmeier's book, The Immigration Crisis, lists the borders described in the Bible and tells of the pagan nations which sent their armies against Israel rather than allow Israel to cross their borders in peace, even after Moses offered to pay them for the privilege. Hoffmeier said this proves nations have a right to defend their borders as they see fit. He concludes on page 57, national borders and personal property were recognized and respected even in the case of travelers who wanted to pass through. That is, Moses and the Israelites were denied passage through the territory of Edom. Are indeed the unreasonable, ruthless aggressions of pagans God's pattern for us? Wouldn't a better model for us be how Moses treated foreigners, not how foreigners treated Moses? When enemy armies defended their borders in violation of God's will, God wiped them out. Doesn't that discredit any legitimacy to their right to defend their borders as they see fit? Doesn't that warn us against similarly defending our borders without respect to God's will? Who disputes whether we should have borders? Isn't the controversy God's vision of who and how many we should let cross them? By what criteria and under what conditions? Moses defeated the armies of nations who refused to let God's people cross them in peace. Let us avoid that judgment. Moreover, however, isn't border security a biblical concept? The wall around Jerusalem was important to Ezra and Nehemiah. The wall had a large gate through which camels could gallop, closed at night and during any military threat. And there was a small door open all the time through which men could enter one at a time. Would the cultural counterpart today be criminal and terrorist watch lists at borders to keep out the violent while letting in peaceful, hard workers? If we allowed strangers to come legally in return just for reporting their address and sponsor, paying taxes and signing up to learn English and how our freedom works, wouldn't they? Wouldn't the population of illegals shrink to the small fraction who are actually violent criminals, whose small numbers would make them a lot easier to catch? Would such rules be consistent with biblical principles?